All right, let's get into the first of what will likely be many Friday feedbacks of 2025. Many of you, I can tell from the emails and the letters and the love letters, like with Kim Jong-un, many of you are rightly sort of focused on what are the first priorities of the incoming administration going to be? How horrible will they be? How can we block them? Who's most dangerous? And case in point, we did a little poll. It's not McLaughlin, as Trump likes to say, but we did a little poll on the YouTube channel. 79,000 of you weighed in. The question was, who is the most dangerous Trump cabinet pick? A full 2/3 said Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the most dangerous, followed by Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and Lee Zeldin. I think that in ways that are not as commonly within the political sphere, right? We think about dangerous cabinet members as a secretary of state that will belligerently induce conflict with other countries, or a secretary of defense like Pete Hegseth, who will belligerently, and belligerent has a slightly different meaning with Hegseth, do the same, or what. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I agree, is extraordinarily dangerous, but in a different way than we normally expect cabinet picks and nominees to be dangerous. And I would also consider Tulsi Gabbard on this list as potentially of the most dangerous Trump picks. We still don't know who of these folks is going to get confirmed. Seems to be some resistance, for example, from FBI employees to the nomination of Kash Patel. We're going to follow all of it, but hard to disagree with RFK as a dangerous guy. David Post wrote, I am a liberal living in a red state. In fact, I live in a suburb that is fairly well off and probably at least 75% vote Republican. My right-wing neighbors absolutely don't see our state as failing because they are doing well and the schools their kids attend are pretty good. They never experience the failing areas of the state. They are totally isolated from the inner city and rural poverty. It's very easy here to ignore the fact that our state is ranked 49th in almost every category you mention when you live in nice areas of the cities or nice suburbs. Yeah, this is a common thing in a lot of places. I have friends in Florida who say, David, sir, they're very deferential to me. They call me sir. They say, David, sir, I see the news reports and the rankings about the education, healthcare, poverty, crime, all these problems in Florida. But I live in a nice Miami suburb. My kids go to private school. It's so safe and everybody's playing out in the street and all of this sort of stuff. And many of them realize you can just pay your way out of most of these situations, even in states that aren't doing well. In Argentina, I know people who say, listen, I know that the inflation rate is out of control in Argentina. Poverty is out of control, services, all this stuff. But I live in a nice neighborhood in Buenos Aires in a beautiful doorman building. My kids go to a private school and my job is in Canadian dollars. I'm good. And it is not a unique situation that people guide themselves by what they immediately see, and they take anecdote as more valuable sometimes than broader empirical data. As people, I think, who want to really lift all boats, it's important not to get caught in what I'm seeing personally must be everybody's reality, because very often it's not. Sci-Fi Realism wrote, why is it people shame poor people for receiving welfare, but not the rich? Subsidizing poor people is cheaper than subsidizing rich people and bailing out their failed businesses. Poor people just want a better life, but rich people actively want to make more money at the expense of others. Yeah, there's a sort of negative connotation if, as an individual, you're on food stamps. Or I remember being in school, in elementary school, and we had lunch tickets, like full price, subsidized and free. There was definitely a sort of pejorative attitude towards the kids who qualified for the free and reduced lunch through no fault of their own, of course. Forget about the word fault, but certainly through nothing that the kids did. But taking corporate welfare, having your corporation bailed out, or getting goodies as far as regulations or tax cuts or whatever doesn't have the same negative social connotations for sure. And it seems like quite an unbalanced reality. Over on the subreddit, the user deleted said, when was the last time a conservative came up with a new solution to a problem? Not a rhetorical question. I actually want to know if anyone has examples of conservatives thinking about solving problems in novel ways or pushing some frontier on something, anything like how to sort out city planning, finding new cures for diseases, making our planet just an all-around nicer place to live. Not counting Elon Musk, because number one, most of his novel thinking happened before his conservative arc. And number two, right now, his solution seems to be to F Earth, let's go to Mars. I don't know that this is totally fair. And as many of you know, I have a point of view. I'm on the left. I believe that the sort of social democracy perspective has been vindicated globally for the last 150 years. I have an opinion, but I also want to be as fair and objective as possible. And the reason I think that I struggle a little bit with this question is it's a fair one. When was the last time that we saw overt conservatives come up with new solutions? But I would offer a counter, which is a lot of the people that are coming up with solutions aren't elected officials, and they don't necessarily wear their personal politics on their sleeves. And so when we say, hey, here's a group of 30 researchers that were involved in figuring out that you can significantly increase early detection of and treatment of some disease, we aren't necessarily privy to their political beliefs, nor do I really care about them. And so I think that there's a two-part answer here. Number one, it is true that in a lot of academia and social sciences, the sort of thinking and the exercise at large lends itself more to those who would be politically on the left. It doesn't mean necessarily the institutions are biased. It's that if you're interested in a field like, for example, sociology, it might just, by its nature, interest people who are more on the political left than the political right, and that's okay. But the bigger part is a lot of the progress that's made, a lot of the accomplishments, a lot of the successes and advancements just aren't coming from people where we go, oh, look at what these conservatives did, or look at what these liberals did. It's coming from spaces that are less politically coded. And if I'm objective about it, I think that that's my view. Oh, not that, wrote in and said, it's kind of staggering how out of touch these takes always are. You didn't even mention Gaza. The reason why Kamala lost and Trump won was fairly simple. Democrat voters stayed home, not out of complacency, but out of disinterest and disillusionment. Democrats love to do nothing more than woke scold and discipline their own voters' base and call them betrayers whenever they don't fall in line, and look where that got you. Democrats offered their base nothing more than Orange Man bad and hoped it would be enough. You need to sell a promise and a vision, like Medicare for all. But Democrats were just selling, we're not Trump, who is Hitler. And look at how awesome the economy is. Most people didn't think the economy was doing good either across the board, just delusional David. Well, most people, a majority, did think the economy was doing well, but a majority was not enough to win the election. Now, on the issues that the viewer points out, of a vision on healthcare or whatever, I included that in my video on why Kamala lost. As far as Gaza, I try to be as objective as possible. I didn't find Gaza as a top issue in any poll done before the election, nor even in any exit poll. It's not any personal bias against recognizing Gaza as the reason Harris lost. It's that I can't find anything, entrance polling or exit polling, that tells me that that was a big reason. Rather than attacking me as delusional, give me something that would show, hey, this was a big issue. Here's the states that it might have affected for Harris. Here's how she might have had 270 otherwise. And then I'll come back to it. TSGFOG says 184,000 children currently living in poverty in Arkansas, but only focus on the woke left and the 3 trans girls playing on the soccer team. Yeah, that's basically Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And she now wants to turn around and say, look at how awesome Arkansas is. Everybody wants to move to Arkansas. And by the way, it's super cheap. And of course, it's super cheap because there's very little demand or competition. People going to Arkansas. If all of a sudden everybody says Little Rock is God's gift to the United States, and I'm sure Little Rock's great. Okay. If all of a sudden everyone wants to move to Little Rock, it's not going to be so cheap anymore. Prices, rents, real estate will be driven up. Restaurants will be so overfull that they'll say, let's raise prices until demand gets down to a level at which we can handle it. This is the way supply and demand works. And yeah, the mismanagement there has been wacky. Over on Facebook, Norm Marrier says, as a Canadian, I have to say that there's nothing very radical or so left-wing about AOC and her ilk. We've had universal health care and affordable college and university education for decades. In fact, all Western democracies have it. It's sad that the US is so far behind in this area. I thought there was a chance for progress when Bernie Sanders came so close to capturing the Democratic nomination. Now it's back to square one with billionaires in power who only care about tax cuts for the wealthy and shrinking the size of government. No, we do not want to become the 51st state. Yeah, I spoke to a few of my Canadian friends recently. None of them want to become the 51st state of the United States. That's what they all have in common. Ping Vinnie says, do Americans think they are some sort of billionaires who haven't just made it? Whenever I say something like billionaires should pay taxes, someone who makes $35,000 a year gets mad and starts saying how they already pay too much in taxes. Like, do they think they're even going to be millionaires? Yeah, this has been, we've talked about this. I remember going all the way back in 2010 when the Tea Party movement came forward. I was 6 years old back then. I was doing the show, if you can believe it. When the Tea Party came out and they galvanized tons of support around we will cut taxes for the rich, we explored why would people go for that who won't be helped by that? If anything, they'll be hurt by it. And part of what we came across is there are lots of people who see it as aspirational. I believe I could one day be in the tax bracket, at which point I would benefit from those tax cuts. That is part of it. Another part of it is they know that that's never going to apply to them as far as a tax rate, but they see it as I'm showing that I'm on the team. I believe in a bunch of the stuff that this movement is offering. And even though I don't benefit from the tax cuts personally, and I almost certainly statistically am never going to, I am signaling that I am on the team by saying that I support that, even though I don't think it's likely to help me. Both of those explain to some degree why people support stuff like lower taxes that they will never, ever benefit from. Edward Scott thinks we are about to end the show. There have been many right-wingers who have been anxiously waiting for this. Edward said the final death throes of the David Pakman show is hilarious. Are hilarious. That's what happens when you blatantly lie and obfuscate the truth and use heavy bias, hyperbole, and misinformation to justify a false narrative. David is also a great example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Well, Edward, we just came off of our biggest year ever in 2024. Election years tend to do that. I don't expect 2025 to be quite as big, but I think we're going to be okay. I really hope the people that have been holding their collective breaths as we circle the drain, about to end because we simply have no more viewers nor revenue nor anything. I hope you're not still holding your breaths because you'd probably have run out of oxygen by now. info@davidpakman.com. That is the place to send your emails to maybe be featured in Friday Feedback. I will also remind you that we are pushing beyond 5,000, crazy 5,000 pre-orders for my forthcoming book, The Echo Machine. You can find it at davidpakman.com/book, or you can call any local bookstore you want and say, I'd like to order David Pakman's The Echo Machine. Every bookstore can get it for you on the release date, March 25th. We will see you on the bonus show and then back here next week. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine, and in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years.
With Trump winning this election, the Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes. We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order the Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.